Welcome, one and all, to the Hammer Territory Podcast. My name is Shawn Coleman. Hope wherever you are and wherever you are listening, you are having a great start to your week. And you know what? Hey, if you're a member of Braves Country, it may just be the fact that we finally get a little bit of a break from watching the Braves play baseball that could make your week worthwhile. But hey, Atlanta is the center of the baseball world right now with the All-Star game currently going on. As we record, we'll have plenty to discuss when it comes to All-Star weekend, but also the majority of the show will be talking about the newest talents that are entering the Atlanta organization from the 2025 MLB Draft. And as always, I am joined by one of the best in the game when it comes to covering the Braves and baseball, Stephen Tolbert. Stephen, good talking with you. And as always, sir, hope you had a great weekend.
What's up, buddy? It's been a minute. I think the last time we did a show was the team was still out in Sacramento. So it's nice to be back. A lot's happened. We're going to talk about, obviously, the home run derby happened last night. As we're recording, the All-Star game is happening tonight. As we're recording, Acuña has already been taken out of the game, which is why we're recording. And obviously the big thing is the MLB Draft, which happened over the weekend into Monday. A lot of stuff to get to there. So yeah, a lot of stuff has happened. Obviously the team is going to kick off their second half on Friday at home against the Yankees. So, we'll have a couple shows this week, kind of getting back into things, getting, back into season mode. And we're going to have a lot of stuff to get to once the season starts back up again with the trade deadline right around the corner. But yeah, some stuff to get to tonight, and always good to be with you, man.
Yep, definitely was. Over the weekend, I was able to enjoy, some Braves baseball in person when it came to them playing against St. Louis. They look like the Braves of old, so it was a lot of fun to see them doing well. But, let's get into the All-Star break. Brad and Scott did a great job breaking down the weekend, talking about the trade deadline a bit. But, of course, All-Star weekend is occurring in Atlanta. It seemed like it's been a great weekend overall. Great start to the week as well. And of course, the week started on Monday, Stephen, with the home run derby. Matt Olson of the Braves in the home run derby. In general, he had a minute of awesome performance. That's what I was hoping from. Just for the Atlanta fans, he would at least have some type of awesome performance. Didn't make it out of the first round, but have that stretch. But overall, I felt like the setup for this home run derby was a bit more fan-friendly. And just the participants, I think, were a good mix of players who were being introduced to the scene for many in the baseball world. For instance, you got your first, real opportunity to see O'Neill Cruz, who maybe hit the hard ball. He may hit the baseball harder than anyone in the game. You got introduced to Junior Caminero, who I think is probably going to have one of those careers where he's one of the more underrated stars in the game, like a Jose Ramirez. And of course, taking center stage was Cal Raleigh, who's come out of nowhere to really become one of the true offensive power sources in the game. Just a swing that's perfect for the home run derby, winning the home run derby in a year where he's on a record pace for catchers for home runs. It was a really fun time in addition to Matt Olson, and that's what the home run derby should be.
Yeah, the Derby has become a little bit like the dunk contest, and it's become more of a showcase for the kind of the younger players in the league versus like you're not really going to see Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge battle it out in a home run derby typically anymore. You're going to see new guys, right? And guys that maybe aren't as mainstream that are extremely talented. James Wood is another one who we got to see really put on a show. A lot of people watched O'Neill Cruz for the very first time. They had no idea this kid could hit a ball 120 miles an hour. And now they know. So yeah, it's a fun event. The All-Star break is not really my thing personally, but I understand its general appeal. The home run derby is, iconic. I grew up watching the derby. I remember, I'm old enough to have watched the Ken Griffey Jr. Show he put on in Boston. Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, all those guys used to do the derby all the time. I used to love the derby. I've kind of grown out of it a little bit, but Matt put on a pretty decent show. Listen, he got off to a bad start. I saw people making the joke like, he started kind of like the Braves started. He got off to that bad start. I think he had 4 homers when he took his timeout with like a minute and a half left. And it was like, oh God, we're going to have a Jazz Chisholm situation here. And as soon as he got back out of his timeout, he hit, I think, 11 homers. Just bang, 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 bang. The crowd was going nuts. He didn't get out of the first round. That start he got off to really cost him. I think he needed 17 or 18 to get out of the first. And I think he ended up too short. So it was fun. Listen, it's probably nerve-wracking as hell. He's an Atlanta kid. He probably had 1 million people there. He's the only member of the Atlanta Braves in the tournament. Obviously, he replaced Acuña, which is a whole nother level of pressure, by the way. And, I'm sure he was nervous. So, but he put up a respectful number. He didn't get goose egged. He didn't put up less than 5 where it's like embarrassing. Like he came out and he had that really fun moment. And so it gave Braves fans something to cheer for. So that was cool. But yeah, Cal Raleigh, good for him. He's kind of busted on the scene. Everybody kind of knows who he is now because he's got almost 40 home runs at the All-Star break. So good for him. That was cool. It's cool to see some of the young guys. I think as long as James Wood continues to compete in them, James Wood will win one at some point because that dude is just a monster. Just power for days. It's probably the same with O'Neal Cruz, if I had to guess. But yeah, it was fun. It's always a fun deal.
Absolutely. And, a couple of things that I think play into it, with Matt Olson, his swing is more of a process than just a quick flick like some of those other competitors, the quick flick approach is in that home run derby setup is more advantageous. And the other thing that stands out to me when it comes to, Matt Olson is that in typical Matt Olson fashion, he missed like 3 more home runs by a combined 5 feet. Like he kept hitting the top of the wall, which was pretty frustrating. We're used to seeing that in games.
Let me ask you this question. I was thinking about this because again, I'm old enough to remember when it was the other way. Which format do you prefer? Do you prefer the old school 10 outs? Anything that's not a homer is an out? Or do you prefer the new school way where they have a timer and you just hit as many homers as you can?
I prefer the old school way. I would make it 15 outs, just as kind of a nice compromise. And those last 3 outs, like if you were to, or maybe your last 2 outs, you get 2 pitches. And if you hit a home run in one of those 2 pitches, you then get a third. I think that would be fun. I like the ability to put on a show, but the one aspect now that we don't get to enjoy that we got to enjoy in the past, you definitely don't get to enjoy the majesty of those long home runs like we did in the past. That made the show, like Josh Hamilton's performance that he put on. Yeah.
That's what I was thinking is when Griffey, when McGuire, even back when Josh Hamilton did it, because it wasn't timed, it was just a number of outs. You got to enjoy every single home run. They showed every homer to its completion, all the way to wherever it landed. And then wherever it landed, people would just lose their mind because that ball just went 490 feet. Never seen a ball land there in this ballpark before. And it was just so much. I just think it was so much better. And I would definitely go back to 10 outs. And you can get creative with it. You can do 15 outs, like you just said. You can, if you hit a ball over 450 feet, you buy yourself another out. There's ways you can do it, but where you get to enjoy each homer. Like when they're trying to hit as many as they can in a timer, you barely even, they're already throwing another pitch by the time the ball's, landing. And it just kind of takes away a little something from me. Go back to outs. It was such a better format.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that sticks out about it is that we're I'm not going to sit here and reveal our age or anything, but we're older. We maybe you both now we're gentlemen, we're dads, and it's much more fun, I think, as a kid seeing those type of things. And when we were kids, we got to enjoy each home run versus now, and so that made it a bit more fun, in my opinion. And the other thing, I saw something on Twitter, I forget who posted it, but it was so true. We talk about, and both me and you both are baseball nerds. We love hearing about the exit velocity and the launch angle and all that different stuff, but also nothing beat Chris Berman announcing a home run derby. And I'm not trying to be the old guy or anything like that in the room. Back in my day, that type of approach, it's just Chris Berman was awesome for a home run derby. So in general, the product last night was better than it had been in recent years, especially introducing some new talents to the center stage. But yes, I still think there are some tweaks you can do. Maybe introduce some old elements of home run derbies in the past that can make it better moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And when guys would get on a roll and hit 5 or 6 in a row, everyone they hit the crowd would get louder and crazier, louder and crazier. I remember McGuire one year in Boston hit 13 in a row, and just every single one after the other, it just got crazier and crazier. I mean, I just think it's a better format. And listen, I understand why they went away from him, because guys would literally get goose egged. Like, there would be guys who get 10 outs before they hit a single homer. And it was probably kind of yeah. There was a number of, I think Matt Holliday one year did it.
Yeah.
Like
Chipper, I think did two of them, and he didn't have much success. So.
No, he had like 2 homers, and like so it's harder. And
Yeah.
so I imagine it's harder to get guys to do it under that format. Guys don't want to be embarrassed at the All-Star break. So maybe that's why they changed. I don't know. But it was more fun when you could enjoy every single homer before, the next pitch was thrown.
Yeah, and of course, we don't want to go without mentioning, obviously, what the main event of All-Star Weekend is, the All-Star Game itself going on right now. I felt that it was moments. That's what I enjoy watching the All-Star Game for now, Stephen, is moments. Seeing the Braves hit. It was nice to see Acuña hit. Nice to see Freddie back in action as well. The Clayton Kershaw exit in the second inning was awesome to see. I know that they're, during commercial breaks, Acuña got an exit. Freddie got an exit as well. It's nice to see current and former Braves, but in general, I think that it was a pretty smooth All-Star weekend. The All-Star Game itself right now is pretty low scoring like we've seen in recent years, but I think nothing just absolutely too spectacular, but a pretty solid All-Star weekend in general.
Yeah, my one hot take about the All-Star Game is that it's lost a lot since interleague play became a daily thing. I mean, watching Skubal face Acuña 20 years ago when those two had never played, never got to see each other, would have been, that's kind of what people live for, was seeing these American League guys and these National League guys face off for the first time. And ever since interleague play became, literally it happens every single day in baseball. There's a National League team and American League team playing each other somewhere. It's definitely lost something. And, I don't know if it's even a problem that you need to fix necessarily. I do wonder, like I've always thought, get rid of the game itself, announce your All-Stars at the end of the year so that it's a full year award. Because right now, let's be honest, it's a April and May award. Like if you have a hot April and a hot May, voting is in like halfway through June. So if you have a hot April and a hot May, you're going to be an All-Star. Well, that's 1/3 of the season. So it's not really a great indication of who the best players are. Vote on All-Stars at the end of the year. Forget about trying to play a game. Do it like the NBA or the NFL does, where it's just an all NBA or all NFL team. And do it at the end of the year. And, I don't really know if a game is necessary anymore now that these guys see each other all the time. But, I'm sure there's an audience for it. I'm sure there's people that still love it. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, and like I say, to your point, the game itself, I don't think it is where it was in the past, but the moments are still certainly there. And one thing that we can't go without mentioning is the tribute to Hank Aaron was absolutely amazing. They did that right. Baseball has consistently done right when it came to Hank Aaron. And of course, this being, of course, the legend passed away a few years ago. The fact that they just even took the time to honor him with the way in which they did was absolutely incredible. So that was a magical moment. And the more of those that you get during All-Star Weekend, whether you're a kid, an adult, whomever, that's what makes All-Star Weekend. But of course, the other thing that has become a big part of All-Star Weekend in recent years is the MLB Draft. And many were focused when it's a down year for the Braves. What were they going to do when it comes to adding talent for the future? We'll discuss that and more in just a moment after a word from our partners.
Scott, you have a Bilt rewards card, right?
I do, Kratz. I pay a lot of money in rent, and now I get something for that. There's no cost to join, and just by paying rent, you unlock flexible points that can be transferred to your favorite hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and much more. When you pay rent through Bilt, you unlock 2 powerful benefits. First, you earn one of the industry's most valuable points on rent every month. No matter where you live or where your landlord is, your rent now works for you, and you gain access to exclusive neighborhood benefits in your city. Bilt's neighborhood benefits are things like extra points on dining out, complimentary post-workout shakes, and much more. Unique experiences that only Bilt members can access. And when you're ready to travel, Bilt points can be converted to your favorite miles and hotel points around the world, meaning your rent can literally take you places. So if you're not earning points on rent, my question is, what are you waiting for? Start paying rent through Bilt and take advantage of your neighborhood benefits by going to joinbilt.com/foul. That's joinbilt.com/FOUL. Make sure to use our URL so that they know we sent you.
So, Stephen, of course, the 2025 MLB draft, it arrived and it went. It felt like a minute, with it being 2 days now and 20 rounds. That's the other thing that I miss, about the MLB draft is that, you being able to sit there for 3 days. And, I'm probably never going to hear these names again, but I'm going to be excited just seeing them. And lo and behold, Stephen, the Braves, had their draft. Obviously what's gone on this year didn't impact where they were picking this year, but I think more eyes were focused on it this year with the fact that we're more future focused right now. And I want to go on record as of saying this. I am really happy with the Braves draft, and there's a few reasons why. Number one, over the past couple of years, at least in the public eye, there has been much more of what in the world are the Braves doing instead of, oh, the Braves just did that. Like we become so accustomed to, when they were winning the World Series in the early 2020s and all that. I bring that up because the thing that the Braves did that really, really impressed me and that they really needed to do was they used simple common sense. They came into this draft and they needed to add position player talent. They also needed to, in some way or form, address the void that is the shortstop position for this organization. And not only did they do that in a common sense approach, they did it with a creative approach. Like I know after the first round pick, many were thinking, well, if we went shortstop, why didn't we just pick the guy who won the Golden Spikes Award, the shortstop from Arkansas? Well, the reason why is because the Braves took the approach of adding multiple options that could increase their chances of long-term addressing that shortstop position. And that's exactly what they did. And even if those guys don't stick at shortstop, they could play elsewhere. When it comes to using common sense, I think the Braves did a good job of finding talents that could improve the overall quality of their position players. They also found some answers potentially for their shortstop position, and they then leaned into their strength, which is developing pitching later rounds. And Stephen, another aspect of things is they did all this. They got two top 50 players with their first two picks by going under slot, and that's another big aspect of this draft that really could pay dividends down the road.
Yeah, so listen, the Braves drafted 3 shortstops, I think, with their first 3 picks. Tate Southacene was their first pick, which they did pick him under slot, or they did sign him under slot. Carlos Collazo of Baseball America reported that today, that the Braves did sign him to an underslot deal. Their second pick was Alex Lodis from Florida State. He's a shortstop, 3-year starter, or not 3-year starter. I think he transferred in at one point, but played 3 years of college ball. Shortstop, they drafted with their second pick. And then Cody Miller, right, was their third, who was a prep shortstop. So listen, we have not seen the Braves do this. The Braves have gone so incredibly pitching heavy for the last 5 years, 6 years. I think they've picked a pitcher in their first 3 picks like 4 or 5 years in a row or something like that. And listen, I'm not a huge draft guy. Everybody knows that by now. So I'm not even going to pretend to tell you anything about these players. Most of these guys I didn't know existed on this planet until 4 days ago. Names I have literally never heard of in my life. I can't tell you a thing about them. I can tell you what smart people think about them, which is much more valuable. And, Lodis specifically, because he's older, he's already 21. He was in college 3 years. There is talk that this kid is probably already the best position player prospect in the system. Now, some of that is a product of the fact that the Braves don't have any position player prospects in the system, but also that this, the kid's got really good skills. Like, college stats aren't worth much because these kids are obviously hitting with metal bats, and all of them hit like 950, have 950 OPSs by the end of the year. But he destroyed the ball at Florida State. He's got a really good glove. So we'll see. No one knows, right? The Braves went under slot for those 3 picks so they could potentially pay some other guys we'll talk about in a minute more money. But yeah, they went position player heavy early in the draft, and we have not seen that. And I think that was needed. You don't draft for needs specifically, but I do think you have to take stock of where your farm system is And I think I do think it's important to be balanced. And quite honestly, the Braves have been out of balance the last few years. And it was time to address that in a heavy way in the draft. And so, again, I know nothing about the players. They might have picked 3 guys that suck. I don't know. They might pick 3 all-stars. I don't know. And you don't know either. One of Brad's favorite things to say, Brad does a lot of stuff with the draft, especially the NBA draft, is that people are way too certain about these things. It's one of my favorite things Brad says because he's 100% right. There is so much uncertainty. And then you have a lot of people who are absolutely certain about their opinions, and they don't know. You don't know. I don't know. They don't know. Some of these kids are 18 years old. Who knows what they're going to be in 4 years? It's going to take a while to judge the draft, but just by process of let's address position players, I was happy with what I was pretty happy with seeing them be so aggressive on the position player side for their first 3 picks.
Yeah, it was a sensible approach. And again, I know that is not going to get people as excited, as it is the names that are going to be there. But, when we talk about the shortstops that they picked, those 3 names are certainly going to be followed. But 2 other names were the reason why those first 3 picks were under slot. And that, of course, is Briggs McKenzie as well as Connor Essenberg. Those were the 2 names, I believe, the 4th and the 6th round pick for the Braves that were really the reason why the Braves went under slot. 2 high schoolers thought of pretty highly. Those type of high school names that right now may not be in the first round conversation, but easily could be in time. It feels as if the Braves are likely going to be able to sign those. Stephen, I know you have some more information on that in just a moment, but that's kind of been the Braves' way, is that they go under slot in the first, in the top part of the draft so that they can get some quality later on. And that has been a fruitful approach in getting some guys in our system, especially arms, who have continued their development and are some of the more intriguing Braves prospects. This time around, though, they went, yes, with another pitcher, but also a potential 2-way player in Essenberg. It was good to see them invest in some high school talents with high upside that will hopefully become some of the better prospects in Atlanta in no time.
Yeah, so just to give you the numbers for people that want the numbers. So for their first round pick, Southacene, they signed him for $2.6 million. And the slot value of the 22nd pick was $3.9 million, almost $4 million. So they saved $1.3 million against their slot on the Southacene pick. For Alex Lodis, they signed him at $1.29 million. His slot was $1.5 million. So it was about $225K in savings. And then all total, everything, the Braves, they signed their first, second, third. They also signed their 8th, 9th, and 10th round picks today. And all of those guys combined, they saved about $2.7 million against the slot when they signed all of those guys under slot. So what that says is the $2.7 million will be used to sign the 2 guys that you just mentioned, which is Briggs McKenzie and then the outfielder that you mentioned. And so those guys were considered guys that were going to be tough to sign because they wanted more than what their slot was going to give them. And so the Braves used, the mechanics of the draft. And this isn't common. A lot of teams do this, is, you sign under slot so you can spend over slot later. And so the Braves are trying to get 2 pretty high upside kind of first day talent guys in their 4th round pick and their 6th round pick by using the slot system. So we'll see if it works. Those guys have not signed yet, the 4th and 6th round picks. So we'll see if it works. And even if they do sign, again, they might suck. This might be the last time we ever talk about any of these players. You may never hear those names ever again. That's the draft. So, but again, by process of focusing on position players early, using the bonus system to potentially get more value with your later picks is something I'm a fan of. More, just more shots at it. The MLB draft is such a crapshoot. Kind of the best approach, in my opinion, is just as many bites at the apple as possible. And I kind of like what they did, by process in terms of specific players, ask me in 5 years.
And the thing that I'll say is that the setup of the MLB draft, where the money that you have to work with is more important, in the MLB draft than it is in other drafts. That's going to become even more significant when it comes to the 2026 draft after this disappointing year that the Braves had. We'll discuss that a bit more in just a moment after another word from our partners.
Nothing beats relaxing on a hot summer day and watching baseball. And the simplest way to get in on the action is to download the Pick 6 app from DraftKings. It's crazy simple. Just pick more or less on the stats for 2 or more of your favorite players, and boom, you're in the mix for big cash prizes. Nail your picks and you're heating up. Pick 6 brings upside with payouts up to 500 times. Pick 6 from DraftKings is the most fun way to play fantasy sports. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL for new customers to get a special sign-up offer. Better payouts, bigger wins. Only with Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Come talk ball with the Foul Territory crew on Chat BCC at foulterritory.chat. We're hanging out with the fans, answering questions, hosting trivia, and running giveaways like 2 free MLB tickets up to $400 in value and a free MLB jersey of your choice. Got a hot take or a burning question? Drop it in the chat. We might even feature it on the show. It is free to join. You can go to foulterritory.chat. That is foulterritory.chat and come hang out.
So, Stephen, of course, now with the Braves having the season that they're having, one thing I know that people, talk about, looking at, potential draft lottery and all that stuff that was just recently introduced, when it came to Major League Baseball. But, in previous years, you had NBA fans, NFL fans who were, watching Tankathon, for instance, and other sources, seeing where they might get those draft picks. Well, that's going to become something that I think Braves country is going, it may be a bit odd to focus on something like that, but it's going to carry more significance as time goes on. But especially with how the Major League Baseball draft is set up, Carlos and Brad talked about this on the preview show last week. They talked about how the top 3 picks all had $9.5 million or more attached to that slot, whereas the last pick in the first round had $3 million. That's a huge difference in the slotting system that's in Major League Baseball. But an additional thing that I think Braves fans are going to be watching is that Drake Baldwin, who currently is clearly in the mix for the National League Rookie of the Year race, and hopefully will get the playing time that he needs to win that award. If he does, the Braves get another significant pick in next year's draft. So, Stephen, as our attention turns to 2026, here's the question that I bring to you. If the Braves land a top 10 pick, which I think is very likely, is your focus going to be on, hey, the 2026 draft seems to be pretty loaded at the top with singular talents? Are you looking at potentially adding a real difference maker singular talent, or are you looking for the Braves to do the most that they can with that additional money that they're going to have to work with, which is a lot more than they're used to from recent years?
Yeah, I mean, without knowing names and being able to read what scouts believe about specific players and where the Braves specifically are in the draft, I'm always in favor of trying to spread your money out, get as many shots at it as possible. It's kind of like trading back in the NBA draft or the NFL draft, where you just accumulate more picks. You just give yourself more shots at it. It's kind of like winning a World Series. The playoffs are random, so the best way to win a World Series is just to be in the playoffs every year and give yourself more and more shots at it. It's kind of the same logic. That's just how I kind of I would approach it if I was the Braves. But you might be in a singular situation where you're in a spot. The Rockies picked 4th in this draft, and Ethan Holiday, who everybody at one point thought was going 1-1, was just sitting there at 4. And so they took it. And obviously Matt Holiday played for the Rockies, so that's a whole different thing. But sometimes you're just in a spot where the best player, a guy you think is the best player, is in your lap, and you're like, well, we were going to do this whole, under slot, spread it around, but the best player just happened to fall in our lap, so we took him. So again, it's very specific to situation and pick and player. But in general, if you ask me, I would always say under slot, spread your money around, give yourself 4 or 5 shots at getting a really good player, because let's be honest, like 40%, 30%, 20%, I don't know what the numbers are, the hit rate on MLB draft picks is tiny. So just give yourself as many shots at it as possible. we'll see what they do. They're going to have a high pick, I believe, unless they just get crazy hot in the second half, which, it's been a couple of days, so people might have forgotten. The Braves have like 3 good pitchers, or really have like 2.5 good pitchers at the moment. So I don't exactly see a 15-game winning streak coming at any point. But, barring something like that, the Braves are going to have a pretty good pick in next year's draft. So, this is going to be the 2026 draft will be as, for Braves fans, it will be the draft they focus on as much, if not more, than any since the rebuild.
Yeah, and the other thing, of course, the future, seeing what the Braves can do potentially to continue to add to their minor league system through trades coming up. The Braves likely will be sellers. That, of course, is what many have been reporting. And the thing that I'll say is this, is that I don't really think that there's a big connection between what a team does in the draft and what they look for when it comes to if they're sellers getting prospects back, in trades. But with the fact that there's so few defined sellers, I think the Braves, that could be, if they clearly are committed to selling, I think that could help out with their return. But when you look at this, Stephen, when you look what the Braves did in the draft, does that in any way, shape, or form change your outlook at the trade deadline, what you're looking for? I think that we would certainly welcome a top-ranked shortstop in the right trade if it made sense. But I think it's a bit less of a need now, since we were able to land on some guys that we liked. I also think that, with the way that the draft went, you're probably less likely to see like an unexpected significant trade, like a Sean Murphy trade or something along those lines. Do you connect what a team does in the draft when they're sellers versus what they could do at the deadline? Or are you, it doesn't really make sense to be that focused, just add as much overall talent as you can, especially with the needs for the future that the Braves have?
Yeah, definitely more the second one. For one, every guy who got basically every position player that got picked in the first round was listed as a shortstop. Half those guys won't actually play shortstop at the big league level. It's like your little league team. The best athlete played shortstop or center field. It's the same thing in high school ball. If you're the best athlete on the field, you're going to play shortstop. You have the best arm, you're going to play, center field. If you're the fastest guy, that doesn't mean these guys are all going to be short. Like the Braves took 3 shortstops for the first 3 picks. I have no idea if any of them will play shortstop. There's a chance you could draft 5 shortstops and not a single one actually is a major league caliber shortstop. So that's why I don't spend a lot of time, breaking down positional needs, because once you get drafted, I think Chipper Jones was drafted as a shortstop. I think Justin Upton was drafted as a shortstop. Like, that's what I'm talking about. Like, it happens all the time, and it doesn't mean anything. So I don't expect it to change anything the Braves do, anything the Braves go after in terms of prospects and trades. What I would say to the Braves or any other organization or any fan is just the best prospect you can get, regardless of position. Just try to get as much talent to your organization as possible and figure it out later. So yeah, I don't think anything they did this weekend should change any strategy they have with the next 2 weeks. And I don't think it will. There's, another thing, these kids are 18. I mean, half of them, you may never hear from half of them again. So, it's probably not wise to plan around them, even though I know you just spent a high draft pick on them, still doesn't mean much.
Absolutely. And that's the thing. Again, the Braves should be in a mindset to just basically get as quality and assortment of young talent as they can. The farm system has plenty of needs, but I again think it got off to a really good start over the past couple of days. And we will have further coverage on the 2025 MLB Draft, a guest or two in the coming weeks, so we'll help break down the Braves overall haul. We'll have that to look forward to. We'll also have a trade deadline special like we did last year, really breaking down many of the trade candidates, who makes sense potentially to trade. What could the Braves go after in potential trades? All that coming up in the next few days. Listen, I know that the content on the field hasn't been that captivating this season, but we're always going to be consistent with our coverage, whether it's on the field, off the field, no matter what is going on. That's what sets Hammer Territory apart, and that's why we feel you all enjoy it. We can't thank you enough for your support, especially when the Braves haven't been that good this season. But of course, Stephen, do you have anything else as we wrap up this edition of the Hammer Territory podcast?
Nope. Just make sure you're subscribed. We're going to have a lot of content obviously, we're still going to have draft stuff. We're going to have people on that know more than we do, talk about the class, especially more in depth. It's a 20-round draft, so there's a lot of names. And then we're going to go full heavy trade deadline. We're probably going to do a trade deadline show sometime this week, just kind of a primer, because it's a big deal. And it's, even if the Braves aren't buying, that doesn't mean they're not going to be active. And they might buy. I mean, it's not a crazy thing that they might buy a piece for next year. So I don't think they'll be buying any rentals, but they could still buy. So there's a lot to talk about. So we're going to have a lot of content one way or the other. Make sure you're subscribed. Like Shawn said, we are forever grateful for the amount of support we get. It's actually an insane amount of support that we get on the show. So we appreciate it as always.
Absolutely. You can find Steven at B_outliers on Twitter/X. My name is Shawn Coleman. You can find me at StatsSAC on Twitter/X. Hammer Territory across all forms of social media, part of the Foul Territory family of podcasts. Woo! Tongue-tied there. But again, can't thank you enough for the support. Few more days until the season gets back going. Whether or not you think that is exciting or a bit of a curse, we'll wait and see. But we'll always have you covered. Plenty of great content, even this week, coming down the pipe for you. Until next time, go Braves. We'll talk to you again soon here on the Hammer Territory Podcast.